Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Mrs. Ocampo. I'm your school librarian, and I am going to take just a few minutes of your time to go over some important information in regards to research and the source material that you use as you are researching. So, an important word that we're going to be focusing on is copyright. What? Why? I mean, if it's on the internet, it's all good, right? Sometimes we think that just as long as we find it on the internet, it is free to everybody, that anybody can use it, that the original owners of a particular piece of text or an image or a song or a movie is just free for us to take and use however we want. However, that is not true. So I'm going to just spend some time with you today as your librarian to go over some of that information so we can make sure that we are responsible when we are looking and trying to use some source material while we are online. So why is it important to understand the rules of copyright? So first of all, let's get through some definition of copyright. It's a form of protection given to the authors or creators of original works of authorship, including literary, dramatic, musical, artistic, any kind of intellectual work. So when you go online and you see something, you need to really be diligent and understand what materials are copyright protected. You don't want to steal someone else's creative piece. So we just have to be diligent and be aware that even if it's on the internet and you can easily click and copy and paste that information into a document or onto a piece of social or a social media or anything like that, there is a right and a wrong way of using that kind of information. So we want to always make sure that we're acknowledging the hard work of a author or a creator, and we want to give credit to those authors or creators who help us complete our work, our research. There are things that you independently work on as a student, and you want to make sure that your teacher gives you credit for your hard work. You wouldn't want to put in all this effort and all this work, and then your teacher turn around and be like, you already have an A in this class, and let me go ahead and give this other A to somebody else. You wouldn't want that to happen. And so these creators and these authors of these pieces that we find on the internet, we just need to be aware that we give them that credit just like you want to get credit for your hard work. So what exactly is copyright protected? So any type of literary work, including computer software, so novels, poetry, plays, all those types of literary works, musical works, including the lyrics, so songs, musicals, all of that kind of stuff, even orchestral pieces are copyrighted. So even works that you may use in orchestra or you may work on in orchestra or in band, jazz band, those types of things, those are all copyrighted materials. So you need to be aware of that also if you use any of those kinds of things. Dramatic works, including any music, so take Hamilton. For example, the actual musical Hamilton, including all the lyrics, are all copyright protected. Pictorial, graphics, or sculptural work, so any kind of art piece, if you find an image of something, those are all copyright protected materials. Films and audiovisual works, of course, if you try to use a clip from a movie, it's copyrighted. You need to give credit to who created that movie that you are using in an educational setting. You still need to give credit to that creator or creators. All right, so an important word to know, fair use. I'm going to go over two important words. So here's our first one. Hopefully you like my little stop sign, because this is one where, you cannot ignore fair use material. So fair use means when a work that is copyrighted has limited copying rights. This type of copying does not require the permission of the original owner or creator. So that means, like, when you're doing your internet research and you come across an article from the New York Times, that's a fair use article, which means it has limited copying rights. You can use it in your research, but you have to give credit. It is copyrighted, so you have to give credit to who originally wrote that article and where that article came from. So if it's Alexander Hamilton and he published it in the New York Times in 1874, then you have to make sure that you give credit to that source. So some other examples are using a direct quote from a novel or an online article, as long as you properly cite it. So if you've read a novel in class and you're doing an analysis, or you need a piece of textual evidence to support your argumentative research question, then you can direct quote it. You can even paraphrase or summarize it, but you still need to give it a proper citation. However, you may not be able to use song lyrics in a TikTok if the creator doesn't want you to. And so with social media, a lot of people are layering popular music onto their TikToks or to their videos, and you have to be very careful not to use those lyrics or that song without giving them credit. Because the creator, the artist, can get very upset because they're losing money, or they're losing that credibility and that ownership if you are not giving credit to them. You can use song lyrics as inspiration to create your own parody or your satirical piece. So you can, create something new from the song lyrics, to make a political statement or social justice statement or that sort of thing. And that would be fair use there. So, and another important word you need to know is public public domain. This means any creative work that is not under the copyright law and therefore belongs to the public. So there are lots of things that are available within the public domain, and that means you can use it without having to give a proper citation. You do not have to credit whoever the original author or creator was. So some examples is if an author has been dead for at least 70 years. So Shakespeare, for sure, he's one that pops up a lot because, he's from forever ago. And so if you find a Shakespearean quote that you want to use somewhere, you don't have to go and find a website that has that particular quote in it. You have to do a proper citation for it. You just give credit to Shakespeare. And Shakespeare said, 50 million years ago in his play Hamlet, blah, 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 blah. And you're perfectly fine. Most Christmas music is within the public domain. And then also most church songs and hymns are within public domain. So that means that you can use this material and you don't have to find a website or something like that and give a proper citation. You just give credit to whoever originally wrote it. If you can find that information, try to give the proper title if you can find that information, and you'll be perfectly fine when you are using a public domain pieces within your research or any school projects that you are using or working on for class. So some reminders. So Just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's free to use. Not free as in a monetary aspect, free meaning do you have to give it a proper citation? Do you have to give proper acknowledgement to the author or the creator or the artist or what have you? Because again, we need to make sure that we are giving and acknowledging and, the proper credit to those people who created that stuff. Because again, you don't want to be like have a teacher look at your work and say this is A plus work and then give your A to somebody else. That would not be right. You earn that credit, you earn that A, and so you would want to be treated fairly. Properly cite the source material when necessary or when your teacher requires you to do it in their class. There are times where teachers will want you to properly cite all pieces of research for their assignment. So even if it's a public domain image, your teacher may want you to properly cite that within your works cited page. So please always follow up with your teacher as to what he or she is requiring of you. When in doubt as to whether or not something is fair use or public domain, just ask for help and clarification from the librarian, myself, or your teacher. And if I can't figure it out, I will do whatever I can to make sure that I give you I will try to find the right answer for you. So yeah, whenever you're in doubt, make sure that you're asking for help and clarification, because it's always best to err on the side of giving a proper citation and credit to an author or an artist or creator than to just not do that, because then you're plagiarizing. Copyright goes beyond the school setting, of course. So yes, we are learning about this here on campus, but be careful when using materials on social media apps. Social media, a lot of people are thinking that is so far outside of the walls of school that I do not have to follow the same rules and give credit where credit is due, but that just isn't true. You still need to be aware and be responsible when you are using someone else's creative works. You don't want to become one of those people that steals other people's creative pieces and not give them credit, because that's really just not fair. And even though things are very easy to be picked up and found on the internet, we'll go back to this first one where it says just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's free. So just be diligent, be aware, make smart choices, give credit where credit is due. Try to just understand the difference between, public domain, things that are free to the public to use, and then things that are fair use that you still need to give that credit to. So that is all, ladies and gentlemen. In just a moment, your teacher will give you a quick little assignment. And again, if you have any questions, you can come and find me in the library or ask your teacher. Thank you.